Van a ver ustedes ahora el podcast Mi Yo Futuro, grabado con el Premio Nobel de Economía, el profesor Robert Merton. Con el profesor Merton tenemos la oportunidad de hablar sobre su visión de los problemas actuales de los sistemas de jubilación y algunas de sus propuestas de solución. El profesor Robert Merton va a ser la figura estelar en el próximo Global Pensions Program que organizamos en Bilbao los días 22 y 23 de octubre, y ahí van a tener la oportunidad, además, de poderle ver y escuchar en persona. Por lo tanto, les esperamos a todos en el Global Pensions Program de Bilbao 22 y 23 de octubre. Muchas gracias y que disfruten la entrevista.
Mi Yo Futuro, con Diego Valero. Síguenos en Spotify, iVoox y Apple Podcast.
In the world of finance, there are thinkers and there are those who redefine how we all think. Today, we are fortunate to sit down with someone who has done just that. His work has opened new possibilities and guided many towards a more secure future. We are excited and truly honored to welcome the Nobel Economics Prize laureate, Professor Robert Merton, to our show. Professor, welcome to my future self.
Well, thank you, Diego, for this invitation. It is good to be speaking with you, and greetings to the audience.
Thank you very much. Professor Robert Merton has a distinguished academic and professional background marked by rigorous education and significant contributions to economics and finance. His bachelor's degree in engineering and mathematics at Columbia University helped lay the foundation for his analytic skills, which he complemented with a Master of Science at Caltech. He completed his PhD in economics at the MIT, and this period was crucial in shaping his future research interests and contributions to financial economics, particularly in the areas of derivative valuation and risk management. His academic career has been complemented by numerous awards and recognition, such as his Nobel Prize won in 1997 for his work on the theory of options and other financial derivatives. Additionally, the professor has contributed to research on market efficiency, asset valuation, continuous time finance, and also in the field of pension funds and retirement. Professor, in your long and successful career, which areas of research and achievements bring you the most satisfaction?
Well, there are three in particular. I'm proud of my research contribution in the development of financial science in the areas of lifetime consumption and portfolio optimization, derivative securities, and asset pricing. That work was not only intellectually challenging, but they were fundamental to the development of science and the creation of the field of financial engineering. I am proud that they are still being taught and used in practice some 50 years after I did the work. Second, I'm proud of developing and implementing financial solutions to large problems affecting global finance and impacting practice. As examples, I can mention four: credit risk valuation and management, factor investing and asset management, life cycle retirement solutions, and options and derivatives, the multi-trillion-dollar global markets for efficient risk transfer. Lastly, teaching bright students at both Harvard and MIT have been truly satisfying. Through teaching, I have been able to leverage my research and practice in a fashion through my students.
Mhm. Great. If you agree, let's start by talking about retirement. You often mention the global crisis of retirement systems, and one of the solutions you propose are some kind of specific bonds for pensions or pension bonds designed for retirement, which you have conceived and which we will discuss later. But at this point, what are the current major challenges facing society regarding retirement?
Well, the major challenge facing people globally is to have adequate income stream during retirement years. Of course, there are other details. By adequate, I mean, though, a monthly income for as long as needed. And what has contributed to this challenge is that we're living longer, which is good news. But this good news has introduced the problem of financial security for as long as we need when we're older and not working.
Okay, moving to this last point, we are all concerned about maintaining our standard of living after retirement in an environment of constantly increasing life expectancy, as you said. What strategies do you suggest for facing these longer retirement periods while maintaining the stable income?
Well, first, let me just say sustainable income for a retirement requires inflation protected income stream for life, both to sustain the level of standard of living, but also to be assured that the amount of money needed for life doesn't fall short. To account for living longer and maintaining a stable income, there are really only four ways you can increase the needed resources to do that. First, save more, which of course means consume less while you're working. And second is to work longer, which means retire later if you can. Third, take more risks in your investment strategy in the hope that you can achieve a level of benefits that you could not otherwise achieve if you didn't take those risks. But also remember, risk is real. So you need to have a plan B in case risk is realized. You have to take account of the fact that it is truly risk. And then fourth is you want to be sure to maximize the income stream in retirement from whatever your life savings end up being. The biggest impact on maximizing that income from your assets comes from using annuities and reverse mortgage if you have a home.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, now here in Spain is a new era, or I think it's starting a new era about reverse mortgages. But it's, I think there is some room to develop them, but there is a hard work to do that because people in general, older people, is afraid about the consequences of giving or having a new debt about the future that they can see. So, what is your experience on that or your idea about reverse mortgages?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked it. Reverse mortgages, or as they call them, I guess in Spain, lifetime mortgage or Korea. I like this one. It's called a home pension. But whatever the critical feature of the reverse mortgage, if it's done well, okay. But the critical feature is, unlike borrowing in any other way against your house or other assets, that you never have to make a payment either of interest or principal as long as you live in the house. So if that's the house where you're going to live for the rest of your life, this kind of contract can give the assurance that they will not lose the house or something could happen if they cannot make payments. So I emphasize not just borrowing, which is always, a risk, but in this structure. Now, I fully concur. It's not just that these are new, because they're not so new everywhere, but there has been, I've been working on designs and there's a lot of room for improving it. But I always say with innovation, keep distinct the difference between an innovation that is not worth doing, it's just a bad idea or not a good one, and an innovation, the idea is good, but the execution is poor. And so what we need to distinguish is, if it's a good idea, but the execution is poor, then we can fix it. And we shouldn't just dismiss it because it's not being done well.
Yeah, fully understood and completely agree. You talk about a new definition of risk that focuses on income stability rather than asset value. How should this influence the way individuals approach investment and accumulation for retirement?
Well, since retirement financial security depends on a secure income stream, not on a secure value of assets, which one typically associates with being riskless. So bank accounts, insured bank accounts, or treasury bills. But that gives stability to the asset value, but it's not the objective here. The objective here is stability of the income stream. So one has to focus on the risk management of income stability, not asset value stability. So to answer your question, individuals, while saving during their working years, need to keep in mind how to effectively convert their asset values into inflation-protected income, as well as risk management in sustainability, which means not running out of money during their retirement. Now, if you measure risk incorrectly, you measure value volatility or value shortfall, and you're measuring the wrong risk incorrectly. And if you do so incorrectly, you can't possibly manage that risk correctly. I
remember that many years ago, or some years ago, maybe better, in Chile, it was informed to the affiliates to the social security system a concept called pension risk. And this pension risk was, in fact, the probability to receive a certain replacement ratio. Maybe this is the change that we need to provoke in even with the information. No? It's a matter of understanding that what really matters is the pension, not the assets that you are accumulating for this pension.
Absolutely agree with that. And that's been a passion of mine and something I've been working on and lecturing on and implementing for almost 2 decades now.
Yeah, great. Let's move to technology, longevity, our these new trends in our society. How do you think society should react in a world where technology and longevity are changing our traditional beliefs?
Well, the first thing I want to say is nothing new. I know we look at fintech and all the technology and we say, never seen before. What's going to happen? But if you look at history, and I've been living some of the more recent history for over half a century, when you're involved in finance, the first thing you notice is that innovation has been going on for centuries, literally. We citizens of this planet have faced technological change, enjoyed living longer. Our life expectancies and generally around the world over the decades, the centuries has certainly grown. continuously, we have experienced periods of time where new technologies such as the railroad or cars and many more have required us to change our paradigm. So we do this. I offer an old but very fundamental change caused by financial innovation. Centuries ago, we invented the concept of money and currency, which replaced barter and exchange. Now, a more recent examples is from the 1970s and 80s, actually, where I had the great good fortune to become engaged in finance and make a few contributions, which was an enormous 20-year period wave of financial innovation. Many and many of the financial instruments and tools and development and actually regulations and so forth that we take for granted today were all innovated and done in that period of time. And that with this wave, there's a perspective on investing has evolved from investing, for example, back at that time, instead of investing locally, which was the way of investing at that time, we now have globally diversified portfolios as routine available to ordinary, regular people and investors through either mutual funds or ETFs. So, if you go back and look at the enormous changes, that's been going on all the time. And I can recall the development of the 360 computer systems of the 1970s, which, may not look like little toys today, but at the time were really revolutionary in terms of what technology would allow us to do. So, the implementation of quantum computing and artificial intelligence, will further help us evolve. The pace of innovation will continue to accelerate. What used to take 3 years or 5 years for an innovation is going to take 1 year or two. So we actually have not only continuing innovation, but accelerating. The trick with survival is always flexibility and adaptability. But this is nothing new.
Yeah. Yes.
We've seen it before.
Yeah. Let's shift, if you don't mind, to the public policies. Considering these current trends that you are explaining and the demographic challenges, what public policies would be necessary to strengthen pension systems and ensure their long-term sustainability?
An effective public policy must have an integrated approach, but with multiple dimensions. There's no one answer, such as Social Security or privatization. You need a multiple dimensions, but in an integrated fashion. So that is, one policy will not be enough. I have a list of 6 dimensions which I'd like to see every government consider for its citizens. Before I go into it, I should say they don't all have to be implemented at the same time. You can implement different components of it, but always have the master plan of what you want to achieve with the design of your public policy in these areas. So first, an effective Social Security, which means make sure what is promised is secure, so that the public, both young and old, does not lose its trust in the government. So don't overreach or try to imagine that you can somehow solve the entire retirement solution with simply the equivalent of a public pension, Social Security.
Yeah. Yes.
Second, that we call that pillar 1, I think, in most places in the world. There's now a pillar 2, because what we're seeing as a trend around the world, as people are being called upon to take more and more responsibility for their funding of their own retirement. And so we have as pillar 2, the development of what we call defined contribution plans, where now the participant is taking the risks and the responsibility for what's invested with their contributions. And what I would say is a matter of public policy on pillar 2, we must encourage and make it easy for working people to save in defined contribution plans. And this can be done. I've done it. I don't say it can surely be done better. I've been doing it for 20 years. It is doable, namely to try to get the simplicity of a DB or a Social Security plan in a DC plan. Additionally, one specific policy, which is very, if you put it in, it's very easy. It's not non-invasive of any sort. But what you want to do is to require that, in addition, that DC plans, when they display the value of the account, what the account is worth when people go on their computers, right? Next, we want to see how much income at market wishes and dreams or mechanical calculations, but based on current market prices, to give a display of how much income in retirement you could buy with your current accumulation, so that people are getting back the important feedback that is needed for them to make good decisions about retirement.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just mention further that this has actually been implemented as policy in both the United States and Mexico, maybe elsewhere. The Secure Act of 2019.
Yes,
Now, introducing saving instruments such as RSB is my third leg. The retirement security bond to allow the informal part of the economy to do personal saving when they may not have access to formal pensions.
Yes, I think this is very important because in many countries in Latin America, you know very, very well, informality is one of the main problems, if not the major. So the possibility to save in different products further than the traditional occupational pension plans, for example, it's very important, and there weren't any additional options. And I think with your idea about retirement security bonds, this is a new product in town where people can afford a different way to save for the future. Sorry. Yeah.
The reason is that was my third point. I have three more. I want to make it easy for people to maximize the retirement income benefit from these first three sources. So I just mentioned, the biggest impact on being able to get more retirement benefits will come from efficiently designed annuities and the reverse mortgage. They are going to be able to move the needle, but we have to have them do it. And public policy has to encourage it and ensure that the versions that are done are well done. My fifth one is to provide opportunities for working longer, systematically organized by creating a national job bank, but tailored to the matching skills and opportunities for senior citizens using their comparative advantages. So it's a job market bank, but for seniors. Not only would this allow those who want to actually exercise one of the ways of helping their retirement by working longer, but it would also allow them the confidence when they're planning before retirement that opportunity will actually be available to them. So I feel very strongly about that. My last point is the allowed use of funds for emergencies before retirement with no penalty to reduce the resistance a citizen may have to tying their money up in long-term savings, worrying that they might need it. This will, I think, encourage much more participation, and that's important. Those are my six.
Okay, I think all of these six recommendations are very accurate, and I think the combination of all of them can really help social security systems and pensions as a whole. I'd like to remark your fifth point, because it's farther than strictly pension systems, and this is the possibility, sorry, for people to work longer in taking advantage maybe for senior workers to transfer the knowledge, the skills, technology to young people, and this I think is like a pact between generations in order to not just to finance pensions to one group to each other, if having a good trade-off between generations. I think it's very, very interesting. All of them are, but in this case, I'd like to point out, I think it's very, very interesting as well. Yeah.
Well, I would just add to what you said that they will be. These are real jobs, not make work jobs, and so by people working rather than not working who want to, has increased GDP. So it's just good for the economy as well.
Yes.
It's increased productivity.
Of course. Given your extensive research in finance, we move to other chapter of this chat. How do you envision the future evolution of financial services with the integration of sophisticated modeling techniques, such as the introduction of behavioral aspects in profiling or in portfolio construction?
Well, I'm encouraged that with the use of data and technology and the evolving tools and knowledge in finance science, we as an industry can improve our offered solutions for what I would call precision finance. And it's analogous to precision medicine, as we all know, that you target the medicine with more information, you target it to the patient specifically. So it's customized to increase efficacy and avoid more side effects. This is the same idea in finance. A preferred financial solution tailored to individual needs. If you tailor the financial solution to what a specific person actually really needs, and importantly, what they don't need, then you can get more efficient output for the same amount of resources inputted, because you don't have redundant or unuseful resources being used. So that's I'm very excited about that. Furthermore, in the design of financial products, this is one of my workhorses, which is to design financial products based on what the users already know. Furthermore, similar to mobile phones, cell phones and cars. Financial solutions must be made intuitive to their users. What I mean is that anybody who has a driver's license can drive any car. And anybody who picks up any mobile phone knows how to use it. If they say, if you have to read the manual on a phone, the manufacturer's in trouble. They ought to be able to take it out of the box and just use it. And I assure you that in automobiles, things like where the accelerator is, if you get into a 2024 car today and push the accelerator and where it's located, you'll find that in a 1964 car, the accelerator is in the same place, and even more importantly, it feels the same to your foot, even though the technology has changed enormously. So anybody who picks up, going back to the mobile phones, that's because both phones and cars are designed on what people already know, which makes the product intuitively obvious. Financial products must reach the same level of design maturity.
Yeah. It's a very smart thought, because I think we all, in general, don't know about how financial products run and what are the main characteristics of each one of them. So in that case, financial education is not very high around the world, and we need to use. I like a lot this concept of precision finance because is clearly the way to fit to everyone the finance product that they need. Moving again to the ways to protect retirement, your retirement security bonds are a possible solution for this retirement income security. Could you tell us more about this concept and what are the main differences with traditional retirement saving instruments?
Sure. Well, first, RSB, Retirement Security Bond, is a government bond. What I mean by that is it's issued by the Treasury of the United States or the Ministry of Finance in other countries. It's a bond. And therefore, all your questions about it that are related to things like, well, what if I own this bond and pass away? What will happen? The answer is exactly the same as if you owned a government bond of your own country. So that answers a lot of detailed questions. Mm-hmm. It is designed for global use in any country with a government bond market. So it's a global design. In the US, the Department of Treasury will be the issuer. As I mentioned, in other countries, the ministry, maybe Ministry of Finance will be issuing. The payment structure, so it's, in that sense, it's a government bond, but there are some important differences between the RSB and regular bonds. One is the payment structure is different from existing bonds, which is periodic payments, coupon payments every 6 months, and a final principal payment. Instead, RSB pays nothing. You buy the bond, you get nothing, okay? No payments, no decisions, no transactions until a specified future starting date. So, for example, the bonds, instead of having a maturity on their name, they have in their name a date when it starts paying. So a 2040 RSB means that if you buy it today, then it will start paying in 2040. It's similar. So it's the ages. So it pays nothing. Then it pays the stream of monthly payments for its duration. It is designed to convert an asset to an income stream. And the bond is designed to mimic the payments structure of a pension. So you can buy a bond, anyone can, doesn't have to be part of a plan or anything else, for whatever reason, it's a bond. However, when you look at the payments, that's exactly how a pension pays. So you pick a starting date, typically, that would be the date that you anticipate you'll retire, in which case it behaves exactly like a pension. Yeah. Furthermore, RSB payment streams are indexed to per capita consumption, which inherently makes the payments adjusted to both standard of living changes as well as inflation. So it's more than inflation protected. It's protected against changes in standard of living and inflation. That's because if we buy a bond today and we're going to retire in 25 years, if we just did inflation, we'd be locking in the standard of living of today. And 25 years from now, that standard of living may not be too attractive.
Mm-hmm. And what has been, up to the moment, your global experience with RSB?
Oh, well, first, RSB was developed conceptually, 5-6 years ago, and put it out there, and it is not yet widely used. However, I can report to you that in January of 2023, so that's about a year and a half ago, Brazil, the Treasury of Brazil, started issuing their own version of RSB, which they call Rende Mês, and it's simplified from the total design, but basically it captures the features of RSB, including the starting date and protection of the indexing, and so this is for real. But I've seen a lot of interest from countries. They're really interested. So it intrigues them. Now we have one that's done it, and we'll just see how it develops. I've been putting a lot of effort to doing, trying to inform countries about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think one of the main issues of this product is that it is easy to understand. And you mentioned we need to make people easy to understand their pension systems. In that case, what do you think are the practical steps to incorporate them, the RSB, into our retirement plan? Are there any specific challenges they should be aware of?
Oh, well, the first step is to get the government to issue them. If you don't issue them, you can't hand them. The second one is it's a new product, and so if you think of this either as an advisor trying to use it, that like any new product, marketing and client education on the new instrument has to be done effectively. But as you just mentioned, its design, which by the way is a design of the kind I heard earlier in our conversation, of building a solution or building a product based on what people already know, so that it makes it easy to learn and to use. So marketing and client education, I think, will be a lot easier for an advisor or for a government agency or for the Treasury itself, if it's doing the marketing, to pass this. Now, furthermore, everything is local eventually. It would be arrogant to suggest that one precise design will be used everywhere in the world. So in the case of Brazil, they modified it to meet what they needed, not to, and so furthermore, taxes or local regulation must be taken into consideration. And frankly, when that's being done, if these become important or attractive, we may have to change some of or modify some of the policies on taxes, but we do that all the time. But I think it's worth noting, particularly for those who are financial advisors or otherwise, are engaged in the industry of providing financial solutions, they need to know that they will not have to make any changes in how they manage the risky component of their clients' portfolios. I mentioned of the 4 ways to do it. One of them is taking more risk, and many, and perhaps most people, end up selecting taking some amount of risk. And the message is that while the RSB is very important and different, it's the risk-free asset. For risky components, you do it exactly however you're doing it now. So you don't have to completely change all of what you've done, nor educate your client beyond the component of the risk-free part.
Okay. And looking ahead, how do you envision the future of retirement planning in general, evolving with the introduction of RSBs?
Sure. Look, the RSB is a risk-free asset. It's highly predictable. It's very predictable. That's important. That's why it's risk-free. But I would envision the RSB to be used universally by individuals, financial advisors, and financial institutions as an ideal risk-free instrument to implement precision finance, because that's tailoring each detail. So, for example, the same thing applies to institutions. So precision hedging of the pension liabilities or the annuity liabilities of pension funds and insurance companies, they can much more precisely tailor their hedge to the actual features and components of their own membership. Some pension funds have a lot of older members. Others are populated by younger. So the liabilities are very different. Instead of just putting in, a generic, risk-free asset for all of that, which is very imprecise, you can actually tailor by using the RSB. You can tailor it to exactly the profile of the members of the plan. The benefit then means that because you can have a more precise, secure hedge, then you can prudently take more risk-intensive allocate more to risky assets without having to have the kind of cushion or reserve that would be otherwise needed. I also see that RSBs will enable both individuals and financial advisors to create transparency and predictability of one's income stream during retirement years. After all, if it's indexed to standard of living as well as inflation, most of the changes that are very hard to forecast, you don't have to worry about, because whatever they turn out to be, you're covered. And finally, I would predict that the pricing of RSB and the volume purchased to generate valuable information for government for forecasting per capita consumption and other macroeconomic forecasts. We do that now, of course, with inflation index bonds. We use the TIPS in the United States. We take the inflation index bond price, we take the price of the nominal bond, and by using those two prices, we can get an implied future path for inflation. So along with the manifest reason for having these, which is to manage risk and give people a place to actually do their saving, you also will get the benefit of information generated by the market that I think would be quite valuable to not just government, but, for example, to manufacturing firms, or let's say for consumer goods, to be able to have some kind of a serious market-based forecast of future consumption may influence their decisions on developing expansion or not, and similarly for investing. So I think that these will be a very rich source of information as well as the tool for implementing retirement.
Okay, I think, well, in fact, we are many followers from Latin America and Spain, and I think following Brazil, this is an example how the RSV can be developed or adapted, as you said. I wish that the governments and the regulators and the industry, the financial advisors, take note of this idea, because I think there's a vast field to grow these kind of products as a part of the solution for the retirement crisis. Well, dear Professor, hearing your thoughts in this beautiful conversation has been really inspiring. I have really enjoyed it, and I'm sure our listeners and followers have also learned more about you, and it's difficult to don't know about you, but learn more, hear and listen you and your incredible knowledge. However, as I do with all our distinguished guests, the last question is a must. How do you envision your future self, Professor?
Well, I have been fortunate to be engaged in activities all my work life, which I truly enjoy. That is, my job is not work in the way we usually, but it is pleasure, like a hobby. Therefore, I envision my future self to continue doing what I have been doing, which is to work on trying to solve global problems using financial engineering.
And hopefully we can follow all of that for many, many years, because it's inspiring for all of us. Thank you so much, Professor, and to all our guests. I really hope that you have enjoyed this talk. See you next time.
Thank you.
Mi Yo Futuro, con Diego Valero. Síguenos en Spotify, iVoox y Apple Podcast.